Hey guys, what's up? Nari here and welcome to another video.
Today we will be discussing the second part of my pregnancy ordeal. If you guys have watched the first video, you would know that I have gone through hyperemesis for the first 6 months of my pregnancy.
Hyper what?
Hyperemesis?
Exactly, and you know what? I still have to Google it to make sure I get the spelling right.
It's commonly known as HG. But the ordeal did not stop there. So as much as we were happy to know that, okay, I'll stop throwing up, I don't need to go to hospital, Woo-hoo. I don't need any more IVs, my sugar level is stable, Woo-hoo. Something else started to happen. So January comes.
Wait. 24th of December. Let's finish off from where let's start off from when we finished off, right? 24th of December. Nari is, what's the word I'm looking for?
Discharged.
I was going to say dismissed. She was discharged for the final time from the hospital, or so we thought. Well, actually, we didn't know. We didn't know if the hyperemesis had finished or not. But 24th of December, about midday, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, waiting for some drugs, etc. We got discharged. So yeah, Christmas at home. We thought, cool, the ordeal's over. Came home, spent at home. Nari's still not herself, to be honest, and
I was still feeling a bit nauseous. Like the nausea was still there, but it was bearable.
Yeah. And then what happened? January? Then you can tell your story. I'm just setting the scene.
January comes, and I'm telling him every morning I wake up, I was like, I can't. Oh, like my eye, is it swollen? Is it swollen? Because I can't seem to open it properly. And he's like, no, you're fine. And I'm like, I don't think so. Also, between hyperemesis to now, my blood pressure started to spike up. So I was under some hypertension tablets just to control it. But what started happening is the blood pressure kept going up. So they kept increasing my doses of high blood pressure tablets. Cool. So we're doing that, and I'm swelling. And these lot are like, no, you're fine, baby. It's just a pregnancy. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I feel like a balloon.
To be honest, she looked like a balloon. We couldn't tell her that. We're like, yeah, you look good.
It's like nothing. It's just a pregnancy. And I was thinking I could not have put on any weight because I was not eating properly for like the first 6 months. And surely the first week of being back to normal and eating, I would not have racked up all those pounds of fluids at the end. It turned out to be. So January comes, so I have to go to the hospital, in and out, not being admitted to hospital, but I still had to go for checkups. So obviously I still had to check my diabetes, so regardless of whether I had hyperemesis or pre-eclampsia, I had to go every 2 weeks for a checkup. But then they were like, oh, you have to come every 3 days for a checkup. So every 3 days I have to go and get my high blood pressure checked, my urine checked, and any other symptoms related to hyperemesis, pre-eclampsia checked. For the first week or so, they're like, okay, your blood pressure is going up, we have to increase the tablets. Maybe you should take 2 tablets. So here I am taking all this medicine again. So I'm still taking the hyperemesis tablets. I'm still taking the hyperemesis tablets, but now I have to take high blood pressure tablets as well.
Fun times.
Sometimes.
Well, sometimes. Fun times. Fun times.
Sometimes.
Oh, and Nari forgot to mention there was also another slight concern in the beginning of January. So we went for, Nari was obviously going for scans, as you do. Some of them she was missing. Some of them she was meant to be an outpatient, but she was actually an inpatient for.
So I had to go through the hospital.
I remember one time putting her on a wheelchair and pushing her through from one side of the building to another because she was meant to be coming from home. Sorry about that. So yeah, she was meant to be coming from home, and so we had some scans. Well, the scans that we had in January, and they said, like everything looks kind of okay, but there are some areas of concern. What do you mean? The circumference of the head, the size of the body is all okay, but your baby's limbs are short, and there's fluid around his heart as well. So we're like, okay, so what does this mean? And they were like, well, this is a bit of a cause for concern. We suggest you do some further testing. Now, just because of everything Nari had gone through, etc., like we were just like, do we really want to go through more testing, put her through more stress, and really what difference does it kind of make to the whole situation? Let's just see what happens. So she then got referred to a different hospital, to Chelsea and Westminster, and to see a cardiac specialist for
a
fetal cardiac specialist. Didn't even know that existed. And she went and had a scan there for an hour. They checked the heart, etc., and they were like, okay, there's fluid around the heart. I'm like, yeah, we know that. That's why we're here. And this is a cause for concern, so we are going to monitor you and get you back here in a couple of weeks. So that was okay. And then, then we were having more scans. A few weeks later, we went back to Chelsea and Westmid, did the heart scan again, and they said, oh, do you know what? Most of the fluid's gone. It's all good. This looks okay. So we can probably eliminate now...
kind of heart defect. Or
a heart defect. Or what they were potentially looking at was Down syndrome. So they said, okay, maybe this is probably fine now, but the limbs are still short. So we kept having growth scans every 2 weeks. Or every 1 week? Every 2 weeks.
Yeah, every 2 weeks. Basically, what they were trying to see, they've moved away from Down syndrome, and I did not want to take the test afterwards because I have to do a bit of an invasive one, if you guys know, and I just did not want to. I think we just had that faith. If anything was not wrong with our baby, if there was anything in concern, we will just welcome him. Regardless, if he had any kind of disability or if he was a total healthy baby, we will just keep him and deal with what happens and just find a solution to it. And then they were like, okay, so we think it's not Down syndrome, but we might think it's Wolfism. So what you guys have to understand, so I'm going through all of this. I've had hyperemesis, I've been throwing up my guts out. All I'm thinking, oh my God, I failed as a mother. My child is not here, and this is all my fault. I'm type 1 diabetic, this is all my fault. And this is the kind of ideas that were going through my mind because, even though it has nothing to do with me per se, but we knew being type 1 diabetic that I will have chances of having either a big baby if my sugar levels were out of control, or a smaller baby through the small end, as much as you can have a normal healthy baby. So we know that these were the three options or that we were facing. Obviously, I did not want a fat baby. Not a fat baby, but a big baby. You know what I mean?
She didn't mean that. She meant she didn't want a big baby have to push out a big baby. It's I think what she meant. Wrong choice of words. But you guys get what she meant.
You know what I mean. So we were going through all of this, and they even mentioned termination, and we're like, no, this is not happening. We're not going to think about that. We're keeping the baby regardless. So hyperemesis, all these dramas about and having a child with dwarfism, obviously we were not really upset about it. I think we were a bit upset, but not so much, because I think we have so much faith in knowing you know what, if he was given to us, we will love him, cherish him regardless. And then the pre-eclampsia starts. And as I said before, I started to swell, the blood pressure is going high, shoes are not fitting my feet, I have to wear his clothes.
I mean...
it's true.
I mean, swelling is normal in pregnancy, as many of you watching this will know, but I mean, when I say she was the Michelin Man, she was the Michelin Man, toes, feet, legs, neck,
eyes,
face, everything. So... we were struggling to control her blood pressure, so we were monitoring her blood pressure from home. There were times she was hitting 190 over 100, sometimes 110, sometimes 120. And, we would go in spikes, we'd get it back down, and I'm sure she was trying to cheat the machine sometimes by breathing slowly and deeply, just to make sure to convince yourself everything's okay. And, so we went back to the hospital. Doctor took one look at her, and now obviously by this time, especially within the maternity unit, they all know us very well. They know us first name, but they know exactly what's happening when we come in. And one of the doctors that we had previously seen just looks at her and goes are
you staying?
You're swollen.
No.
And it really looks like you potentially have pre-eclampsia. So they ran some tests, the results didn't come back until the middle of the night, so she had to stay. And tests came back, and they said we'll check the urine, etc., etc. I think they checked for a specific protein in the urine, and it was clear, it was fine. So they were like, look, we're not 100% happy, but obviously the bloods and the urine are showing that you don't officially have pre-eclampsia yet, but you're going to get it. So what we need you to do is keep returning every 3 times a week, I think it was now, to our clinic. They're going to run your measurements, your BP, etc. And if at any point we're not happy, then we're going to have to admit you again. So we did that for a week or a week and a half. Went back one day.
And now it's beginning of February.
So she goes to the clinic one day. She's particularly bad this day. And what they were doing is when she went to the clinic, they would do her blood pressure, and then they would give her stat, which basically means, I don't know if it means emergency, but it's basically 1 dose of something. And that was a drug called nifedipine. And they would give her stat nifedipine and then see if it comes down.
Yeah.
This particular time, they gave her stat nifedipine, didn't come down, didn't really move. Gave her again, didn't come down, didn't move. I think maybe, I can't remember. And they were giving her another drug called methyl-dopa, which she was taking from when this all started anyway with the blood pressure. And they were just upping the doses. So it wasn't moving.
So I've maxed out in all of them as well.
Yeah. So they get to a point where they say, okay, you've had as much as you can possibly have. Now we have to look at other options. So basically that day they said, we need to admit you. You can't go home. So she went back downstairs. The clinic was upstairs above the ward. Went back downstairs. They ran the same blood tests again. Came back in the middle of the night, and the sister running the ward came and sat on her bed and said,
remember she's like rubbing my hand.
She's like,
I'm sorry.
Really sorry. You've officially got pre-eclampsia, and you have to stay. Now we're like
what? Hold on. So he was born 33 weeks, so 4 weeks. So we're around 30 weeks now. So I'm 30 weeks pregnant and I have to stay in. No, 31 weeks pregnant and I have to stay in. And all I'm thinking, my God, I have to stay here for 9 weeks. I'm like, oh, but and they're like, oh, don't worry, you're diabetic and you have pre-eclampsia, so you might be giving birth at 37 weeks. So I'm like, okay. It's like, do I actually have a choice? She's like, yes, you actually do. However, the thing is, if you decide to go home and something happens, you might lose your life and the babies. So obviously, me being me, the mature me, obviously we stayed in hospital.
Not me.
Not me. Like, he was staying. Actually, you will come in. Like, me and the baby, obviously. Stayed in hospital, and I was like, you know what? I just have to endure it and deal with it. And so, yeah. And as the weeks go on, so 32 weeks now, I'm still swelling. The swelling has not gone down. And the blood pressure is still going up, even though it's under control now. My sugar levels are fine. The hyperemesis hasn't come back. But I still have to be monitored about maybe 3 to 4 times a day. You come and you have all these machines all linked up and wired up. And yeah. So comes 33 weeks. The swelling is still going up. The blood pressure is not being controlled. And we're reaching the end of the week and I'm not passing any urine, so I'm drinking so much fluid and nothing is going out of my body.
Wait, again, let me put that in context. I walked in one morning, as I did most mornings, every morning in fact, and I was like, oh, you seem a bit better today, like you're a better vibe about you. And she's like, yeah, like I feel a bit better, but the only thing is, like, I've been drinking so much water and I can't go to the toilet.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, oh, like it's just not coming. I'm like, oh, okay. So I had planned to go home and hit the gym. So I was like, okay, strange. Left, and in the meantime, my mum had arrived.
My best friend
and
as well.
and Nari's best friend Sophia. Shout out to Sophia. Hey. They had come. And basically, I was on my way home. Mm-hmm. I hadn't even made it home yet. And then my mum called and said, I think you need to come back. I said, oh, what's up? She's like, oh, the consultants have just come and, you know, Nari's not good because basically she hasn't passed urine, which means the pre-eclampsia is getting bad, and it means
I'm
and
moving to
basically
eclampsia.
she said they're going to deliver her like ASAP, as in today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. So do you think I can still go to the gym? And then I thought about it, I was like, I'm not going to get a break of working because I'm going to be thinking about it. So I turned around and went back anyway. So
Yeah. So
that
what they
was
had
that.
to do, they had to do a test to see if it's just a false alarm was actually happening. So I have to measure my water intake and my water outtake. Should I
oh
say?
man, I mean, like she was only allowed like 200 mils of water an hour or something.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
just to see. Because obviously my body was retaining everything, so it was kind of dangerous. And so comes back. I remember it was Thursday, end of the week. And by the way, by that time, it was like we had spent, like the day before, we had spent his birthday in hospital, where we had to order pizza.
We had pizza though.
And he arrived cold.
It was so cold because my mum's adamant it has to be Pizza Express. Have you ever had a takeaway Pizza Express? Horrible.
So, no offense to Pizza Express. by the
No,
way.
Pizza Express is amazing, but not when it's cold.
And so that was his birthday, and I was feeling so bad. So the next day,
Why is she worrying about me when she's
the
can't
next
even
day,
pee? Doesn't
the
even make
next
sense.
day, I'm having problem to pass any urine, so we have to do all the tests and things like that. So that's Thursday. Then comes Friday morning. They're like, okay, we've decided we are delivering you tomorrow. It's like we were hoping to push it.
That was Friday morning.
No, your birthday was Wednesday,
Oh
Thursday,
no,
Friday.
sorry, I
yeah.
meant about the day she can't pass.
Yeah, so they're like, we understand you're 33 weeks, but I was like past 6 days, and we were hoping to push it to 34 weeks because his lungs are not developed. So what we're going to do, we're going to give you a steroid shot for 24 hours that will hopefully push his lungs so he'll be able to breathe on his own when he comes out. And I'm like, okay, I don't have a choice. I don't have enough knowledge within the field to argue or contest anything. So I had total trust in my maternity team, and they were amazing team. So Friday comes, I'm moved into this room, and I'm wired up. There's this trolley next to me saying eclampsia. And so I'm given this shot, and I'm also given was it sulfate so I don't get a stroke.
It slipped my mind.
It slipped my mind. Basically, it's an injection they give you that.
An infusion of it slipped my mind. But
Slipped my mind as well. Anyway, so I'm given this shot, which actually burns when it goes through your body. I was shaking. I was so hot. I wanted to throw up. And what it does, it just protects my brain from having any sort of stroke, because at this point, I've moved from pre-eclampsia and I'm at eclampsia, and I can get a stroke at any time, and they have to move fast. So I think he has to be delivered within the first 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. And so we have that 24 hours, Friday 28th of Feb, Saturday 29th of Feb. The emergency section is on the go.
well, they said first thing in the morning.
Yeah, then they had another emergency.
Then they had
before.
other emergencies. So Saturday came, a consultant walked in the room who we'd never met before, and we met like everyone. And he was very, very nice, and he was just, asking questions. He was like, well, let's not even go into what he was asking because it's not really relevant. But the point is, he was like, I'm going to be delivering you, and we're going to take you down as soon as possible, but, providing we don't have any emergencies. Anyway, he leaves, all good, everyone's pretty happy. The only thing is we just don't know him, which is not the most things that put you most at ease when the situation occurs, but he seems like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So he leaves, half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. We're like, is it going to happen? And then eventually they start to come, they start to get ready, they start to do certain things, turn machines off, move, make things mobile, move the drips, etc, etc, etc. And
Because
they're
by
like,
then
okay.
I had a catheter on.
Oh yeah, she also had a catheter. We're going to try and put some pictures in as well. We've got some real horrific pictures of Nari's state. the night before and the morning of, and they take her down. They're like, don't worry, you're going to be able to go in. Da, 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 da. Anyway, I don't know if anyone watching this has ever been in a delivery suite a delivery theatre in a C-section. But I don't know, I felt like it was going to be really quite morbid. And I went in and it was almost like a party. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So there was like 6 people in the room. There was 2 anaesthetists. They're like, hi, I'm so-and-so. There was there was 2 nurses. There was like the healthcare assistants. Like people, there's music on. They're like, what kind of music do you want on? I thought I was going to go in and hear like Mozart, but I can't even remember what they were playing. Like they were playing like, I don't know, Sia or something. And so they put the epidural. Is that right? Yeah, they put the epidural in and they started getting the anesthetics and blah blah blah. And put a sheet up, all very weird. And then we thought the original guy that I just mentioned was going to come and deliver, and then the very same lady, and she's a registrar, walks in. The one that said on the previous video we said she called babies parasites. She walks in and we're like, oh, it's Vicky. So Vicky basically walked in. We're like, oh my god, you're doing the surgery. She said, yeah. So Vicky and another amazing doctor is in the room. They get to work. Okay, so the surgeons, who have now kind of become our friends, after like 10 minutes and Nari rocking around like, are they doing surgery or are they doing DIY? Was running through my head. I'm also thinking, and I told them before I even went in, I was like, I'm not good with blood or anything like that, so don't show me anything because I'll need the surgery, not Nari.
He literally faints if he sees blood being pulled out.
Yeah, and the thought and the way she's moving, like, oh my god, they're pulling out everything from inside. Anyway, all of a sudden, like after 10 minutes, they're like, are you ready? I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, oh, and then they drop the curtain thing.
And here is our son.
And then they go, oh, here's your baby. And there he is.
Looking perfectly fine.
I don't think he cried or anything for like us. Oh, he cried first and then he stopped.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, it's over. The eclampsia is over. The baby is out. He's got legs. And he looks perfectly fine. Tiny, but
which is normal. It's 33 weeks and 6 days.
He looks amazing. So so they show Nari. She's crying a bit. They show me. I'm just like, hey, cool, bro. What's happening? I'm joking. And then they do. And then what they do, the procedure is to basically meet mum, and then they take the baby over to a station where pediatric doctors are working or waiting, should I say? And the baby gets handed over to the pediatric doctors, and they just run some tests and they put them on. I can't remember what the station's called, but anyway, the pediatric doctors now take him, but everything looks perfect. The eclampsia is over, the surgery is nearly over. Nari ends up spending about another 40 minutes in surgery. I
had a bit of bleeding, so
the actual stitching up and closing up takes much longer than the actual
delivery
taking out. So that was it. The ordeal is over.
So we thought.
The ordeal's not over.
Yeah, so this was the end of my ordeal part 2. We thought it was finished, but it wasn't. Pre-eclampsia and eclampsia is not a joke as well. You could lose your life, as we found out. All I was saying is, if anything happens, save the baby. Literally, that's all was going through my mind. If I don't make it, think of him first. Anyway, the story doesn't end here. More things end up happening, and tune up for the next video. Maybe the next one, the one after it, I'm not too sure. But if you had found any values in this, and if you know anybody that had pre-eclampsia or eclampsia or any sort of pregnancy ordeal, please share, comment, like, and subscribe.
Yeah. That was part 2 of Nari's pregnancy ordeal. Hope, like Nari said, you found value in it. We'll see you in part 3. And if you've got any questions, comment below, and we'll be more than happy to answer them for you. But on that note, thanks so much, and we'll see you
Next time.
and in
Bye-bye.
part 3.
Bye bye for now.
Bye.